There's only so much a stock market can go up and down before it becomes obvious that it's just a bunch of numbers in a computer. If you look at the stock market, basically it's saying that the economy is crashing. In historical terms, when economies collapse and there's famine and there's a threat of a world war, that is indicated by the collapse of the stock market, right? Which is the optimism of investors. If you look at the stock market now, it's like a yo-yo. It's up, it drops like never before in history. It's up, it drops like never before in total history. It goes up, it recovers, it drops. It's a yo-yo. Now the stock market crashing and not crashing, the war that's a war but not a war, the martial law that's not martial law. You see all these things that are but isn't. It's, you know, it's either on or off, right? It's either on or off, but in this case it's on and off. We've entered a quantum reality. We're not at war, and we're not at war. The economy has crashed, and it has not crashed. It is the end of the world, and it is not the end of the world. There's the threat of famine, and grocery stores are open, right? It's martial law, curfews, borders are closed, and it's not imposed by a military, so it's not martial law. We are in, if you study physics, quantum physics says that something can be on and off at the same time. I'm not a scientist. I'm not your conventional scientist. But that's essentially quantum physics, is that it can exist and not exist at the same time. It can be on and off. And that's where we are. We are living in a quantum reality. But there's something more than that. We may explore that a little bit later. There's something else going on. If you look at it last year, according to numbers, over 1,300 CEOs stepped aside. Now, some of it is due to the Me Too movement. Some of it is due to corruption. But never before have so many CEOs, leaders, business leaders stepped aside. That went along with the Russian collusion against Donald Trump, the US president. Now the CEOs, the numbers I looked at ended around October, November of last year, 2019. The Russian collusion ramped up into impeachment of the president of the most powerful country in December 2019 and continued until February 5th, when the President Trump was acquitted on all impeachment charges. February 5th. That same period end of January, beginning of February is when the coronavirus hit the US. February to March, in a span of 6 weeks, borders have been closed, curfew have been set, companies have been shut down, theaters are shut down, films in production shut down, TV shows shut down, staff told to go home, companies are working from home. Basically, the whole world is shut down in a span of 6 weeks. 6 weeks from early February, right after the acquittal of the US president, is when the coronavirus started. Think about all these things. You have the CEOs leaving till November. December, there's the impeachment that carries you into February. February, now there's the virus. It's like a non-stop action. So now basically the world is closed down. People are afraid to come in contact, this social distancing term, which is a great psyop term. What else is going on? A little while ago, I talked about that somebody owns this planet. It's a rather incredible discussion. It's a rather eccentric point of view. But that's why you're here. You're here because you want to hear stuff that's a little more out there. You won't find this anywhere else. No one has ever said that the planet is owned, not like I described it. Now, let's go on that assumption. Let's go on that theory that the planet is owned. And now let's put it together with what's happening. The planet is closed down. Think about that. You own a planet, and your planet is closed down. Obviously, your planet would not be closed down without your permission, because you're in control of the planet. You're in control of the leaders. You're in control of the CEOs. You're in control of the stock market. Think about the stock market just for a minute. The stock market drops, it crashes, it collapses. Well, it hasn't crashed, but it drops significantly. Who loses money in the stock market? Rich people. Who controls the world? Rich people. So if the stock market crashed, who would suffer the most? The rich. Who controls the world? The rich. The rich would never collapse the economy because they would lose all their wealth. It's not in their interest. But the stock market has dropped to unprecedented levels. On a weekly basis, it's dropping. There's a lot of wealth trading hands. Now, I think what this is that when stocks drop, because they're selling, people can come in and buy companies for cheap and put other companies out of business. There's a consolidation in the corporate world. The CEOs are gone. The CEOs last year made record profits, and the stock market went to the highest levels in a long time. They all left their position. The stock market drops under this virus epidemic, under this end of the world scenario. Now you have, the stock market won't crash because the people in control are the rich. The rich will not lose all their wealth, but they'll buy stocks at a lower price They'll buy companies. Companies will merge. Corporations will consolidate. Power is consolidating. Everyone has been told to go home. Go back to your own country. If that is not racist, I don't know what is. Viruses are racist. Go back to your own home, your own country, and because we're closing the border. No international travel. Airlines will not fly out international. If you don't belong to this country, they won't let you in. Some countries have closed the border to only people who live there, citizens, locals. So, you have this consolidation in the corporate world. Money. Who controls the stock market? Who controls the investors? The people who own the planet. That's the heart. That's the engine. That's the engine of this planet. That's the wealth of this planet. You're not going to crash it. The stock market will not crash. So, borders are closed. What's happening? The owners of the planet now can do a head count. They can go to all the countries and say, we have this many people in China. We have this many people in Japan. We have this many people in Australia, in the USA, because we've closed all the borders. Right? We can do a head count. Remember in school? Everybody go to your assigned class. The teacher will call your name and you will count. And the teacher say, I have 10 students in my class. I'm supposed to have 10 students in my class, and that will go to the principal. It's called a head count. Companies do it, schools do it, the military does it. It's just a normal practice. Only now we're seeing it on a planetary scale. You're not doing the head count. It's the owners of the planet who are doing the head count. Right? So what we're doing here, I'm taking an incredible situation and I'm connecting the dots to show you that those in charge are in charge. That this is all controlled. This is all part of a plan. And there's many pieces to it. But when you get to planetary management, and I don't think there's a course in university on how to manage a planet, how to run a planet. So I'm introducing things at a level that is a bit beyond our normal discussion, normal understanding. But it does work with many principles that we understand. Okay? So hopefully you can see the smaller principles, like a head count at school, and the larger principle that there's a planetary head count according to nation. Because we can't get a head count if people are all over the world. So we call everybody back. How do you call everybody back? You motivate people. You motivate people using a virus, which is a 25th century tool or a weapon. We're involved in a 25th century war. But it's not a war. Again, it's not a war, and it is a war. So that's hard. That's hard enough for us to discuss, right? Because we think it is or it isn't. But right now it is and it isn't. It's like that Schrödinger's cat, right? The cat in the box. It is and it isn't. So you have this quantum level scenario being played out in real time, as well as you're dealing with this epidemic, this global scare, which is lives at stake. And you're dealing now with, the economies of a planet. You're dealing with closing borders, curfews, governments in charge, martial law. So here's the other question. Why would the owners of a planet consolidate corporations, do a head count in the nations, change the leaders of the companies? Why would they be interested in something like that? It's almost like they're doing a cleanup of a planet, an organization, a cleanup. Which makes me think, again, I'm going to use smaller concepts, analogies, and hopefully we can transfer them to the larger scenarios. Because the owners they're never going to explain what I'm explaining. If they were to explain what I'm explaining, no one would understand it. I don't believe that we are supposed to know about the owners of the planet for at least another century. So I accept the fact that this is a little early. But I also accept the fact that those who follow my work are open-minded, and they'll listen, and they'll process it according to their level of understanding and awareness. So we have this, what we're seeing is not, it's all fact. We're seeing this is fact. So there has to be something else going on. We're also seeing the lowering of the vibration. When you have an epidemic, when you have an end of the world scenario, the vibration of the people drop. Awareness drops. So you had this kind of a settling down of society, everybody at home, head counts, consolidation of wealth, consolidation of power, and the world kind of shutting down, businesses shutting down, nothing in operation, everything's nice and clean. And the way I like to, the analogy I like to think about is that when you want to sell your car, you get it checked out, you do some repairs, you do a cleaning, right? You take all your junk out, you wash the windows, you have it checked out by a mechanic, you do a wash, you do a wax, you fix things that need fixing that will improve the value of the vehicle. If you sell, think about it. If you're driving a car and you've been driving it for years and it's dirty and it's run down and you want to sell it, you're not going to get maximum value if it's got junk and it smells and it's dirty and the door handle doesn't work and there's an indicator light in the dash and the engine's a little idling rough and the tires are a little worn out. So you fix the tires and you have it checked out by a mechanic and you clean it out and you disinfect and you have the carpets shampooed, right? You're cleaning, you're fixing. Why? Why would you do those things to your car that you would not do, that you didn't do when you were driving it? Right? Why would you fix your car and clean your car? Because you want to sell it, because you want more money. That's why. And you want to attract the right buyer. The buyer's not going to buy a dirty car. That's why car dealerships, they have professional detailers. Mechanics do inspection, 120-point inspections. so that the salesman can say, we've gone through this, the car is safe to drive. The car is nice and clean and ready for you. And that's why we're charging so much money. If, again, I think we understand this, but I'm just going to repeat it for those who like to argue. If you take a dirty car that's broken, that's not working right, you're going to get less money. I think that's pretty common sense. If you fix it and repair it and pretty it up, you get more money. Now, how do we transfer that analogy to the planet? Well, you consolidate wealth and you say there's this much wealth. You do a head count of people, and you say there's this many people in each of these countries. You say this is the vibration of these people. There are these many people who are awake. These are the leaders we have, and we control these leaders. And there are other leaders, and we're going to clean things up. And you go to the buyer and you say, here's planet Earth. We're asking $600 trillion. I don't know how much the planet is being sold for. But you get, 200 some odd countries, you get all these ethnicities, you get manufacturing, you get natural resources, you get all these things. Now, before we sell it to you, we're going to remove the virus and everybody's going to go back to work, life's going to be normal, everyone's going to be happy. So, there is this preparation, I think there's a preparation for a new ownership of the planet. A new ownership of the planet will mean that the new phase, a new era, will launch under the new management, under the new leadership. Good or bad, we don't know, but it will be different. Right? Once this process has been completed. The process might take, we're in about 6 weeks, it might take 8 weeks, it might take 6 months. I'm not sure of the standard transitioning, cleaning up of a planet for sale, but if the planet is in good shape, it'll be quite fast. It could take that year, but that year is this preparation for sale. That's my theory. Of course, this is my opinion, and that's my theory. The planet is being handed over to someone else, and the current owners want maximum value. They want top dollar for planet Earth. Now, you could say that they're doing this willingly, or you could say that because the planet is waking up, they realized it's time to cut our losses, and we don't want to manage a planet that's awake. That's not our stuff. We like to run people down into the ground and abuse them. These guys are heading into a century of awakeness and ascension, and we don't want to, that's not our style, right? Same thing with a company. The company is producing certain kind of products, and the owners like that. When the company shifts its business model, when the markets change, the owners sell. It can be anything, owners. Even a car, your car's going really well, and you drive it to the ground, and then you sell it at high mileage because you want something else. We don't know the exact disposition, but if it's projected, and many of us agree that the people are waking up and they're going to continue to wake up, then we're heading into a very different future. for the planet Earth. And the owners will see the writing on the wall, and they say, well, we're going to get the most money right now. We're going to sell it to some moron and let them deal with it. Now, what's some other evidence that there are these very large games going on? Well, look at it. Governments are handing out financial compensation for lost work, to look after your families, if you're sick, if you're unemployed. If there's coverage. You're getting financial coverage. Essential services are not turned off. Now remember, if you really want to punish people, you shut down essential services. You cut out food. You starve people. In war, you starve people. You kill people. You blow up things. You're not seeing that. Because if you start blowing up stuff, that loses the value of your investment. You can't sell the planet if it's all blown up. Maybe that was the previous owner who blew it up in World War II, and then sold it cheap and ran off. But these guys are smart. They don't want to damage the infrastructure. Well, a virus works very well. You don't damage the infrastructure. Infrastructure intact. People are being taken care of, mentally, financially, very important. Take care of your families. Take care of your health. Don't go to work. Spend time with your loved ones. So who is that? There's got to be some other party that's come in and says, you're going through a transition, we need to look after people, right? I think there's got to be some other party. Whether it's cosmic, whether it's stellar, likely it is some off-planet body that's been brought in and says, now if you're going to go through a transition and you're going to collapse the market to consolidate wealth, if you're going to do a head count and move people around, we don't want you blowing things up. It's against the rules. Now you can use the virus, but you can't kill too many people. And we're going to prepare people. We're going to teach people stay clean. That reduces deaths. There's another body who's come in as a regulator, right, to oversee the transition of this planet from one ownership to another ownership. Whereas in the past, the owner might have just dropped the planet into war, took as much wealth and resources as they could and went off and sold it cheap. We don't know. We don't get to have these discussions. I'm the only person having this kind of discussion. And it's going to get all kinds of reactions. Because the owners have never revealed themselves, and they wouldn't. If they did, even they did, no one would ever understand it or believe it. Because we're not at that level of awareness. So again, my theory is this planet is being prepped for sale or a transfer of ownership. Some people will say, well, it's this new age. I don't think so. I think there's an owner, and the new owner will bring in a new age, new leadership. They will allow certain things and will disallow certain things. They will open it up according to their ability, according to their resources, according to planetary alignments. If the planetary alignments are shifting, then those in power will lose power because of the alignments of the planets, and that will open up for trade and ownership with a new owner that's in sync with the new planetary alignments. I mean, we could get into all of this. There's so many aspects to cover that I just like to cover the bigger game going on. There's a transfer of ownership. The planet is being prepared for the next era under a new ownership. And we can tell that it's a peaceful future because we don't have the destruction. There's a war without war. We don't have the famine. We don't have the deaths. The deaths from the virus will not be that high. It will not be higher than the flu, which is they're quite high, but it will not be like end of the world high. I don't think. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a microbiologist. I don't own the planet. Like, all of this is my analysis. And I like to have my analysis quite engaging. But definitely you can see something big is going on. It's not about COVID-19, which is a variant of SARS. We went through SARS. So there's something else going on. That's what I think is going on. And as it evolves, then more will be revealed. A lot of the time, these kinds of scenarios, they're very well concealed on multiple levels, and no one will talk about it. So it's very hard to determine everything in the beginning. But as it moves along, it becomes obvious, the game pieces, right? The pieces that are moving. And so far, these are the pieces I see moving. And as more pieces move, we can do more analysis, we can have more discussion. And I think it's important to have this level of discussion. We are waking up to becoming a planetary culture. And recognizing that there are other habitable planets with people on them. Okay? So once we have that awareness that we are a spacefaring race, capable of spacefaring, we accept the notion that there are other spacefarers. And we accept the notion that we are a space colony whose ancestors were spacefaring people. I mean, once we get to that level of understanding, this stuff is a little easier to discuss. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, but I think some of what's happening now is opening up that. It's going to open up that process, and then, once it closes down, we won't see it. So let's keep an eye out. Let's watch what's happening, right? Again, we're in a quantum reality. We are in a quantum timeline. Let's say that. We are in a quantum timeline. We are on and off.